What's up, everybody? You're in the machine. Flying crow, Eka Pada Galavasana. Such a cool looking pose with this beautiful line from your head to your extended leg in its full expression. I've done this one before, but here's a little deeper dive on the proper alignment, positioning of both legs, weight distribution, and the way you use your strength. Not so much a lot of strength, but the way you use what you have. It's a tough one, but you can do it. Let's get started. It's a crow, and it's flying. This actually looks harder than it is. It's a good idea to have regular crow before trying this, but it's not totally necessary. What is necessary is to have stability in your arms and your body. This is what I mean. Everybody talks about core with these arm balances. Of course, that's important, but it doesn't mean you have to have ripped abs or be able to do a million sit-ups or whatever. You have to be able to hold the position you're in. So a great way to test this one or to work on it, I always tell people, is to put yourself in kind of this crow position on your butt and have somebody try to push and move your knees, separating them from your shoulders, or pull the knees apart. All you want to do is to be able to hold the position. So a great way to test this is to lock everything down, hip flexors, core, shoulders, arms, push out, and then can you keep it while you rock? If you find yourself swinging around a lot to make that happen, you probably don't have the core strength yet, and this is a great way to practice it. Like boat, crunched in just to work that core, and eventually you want to be able to hold the position no matter which way you fall without making this huge separation between the knees and from the knees to the shoulders. So here are a couple of tests to determine whether you're going to get in the perfect expression. The cool thing about this pose is that you don't have to do it perfectly to actually practice it and get into the pose technically. So everybody can do a tabletop. Hopefully you can do a three-legged table with the back leg lifted. So while keeping the hips square, I want to lift this leg, point the toe. That's kind of important. You'll see this done with the toe peeled back. I believe if I'm scooping in that direction, I want all the muscles doing the same thing. So if, for example, with my arm, if my bicep and my forearm are all extending and reaching, I don't want the palm to be peeled back toward me. I want everything going in the same direction. So it's the same idea when I ultimately do this. Really nothing wrong with pulling the toes back, but I'd like everything doing the same type of job when I lift this leg eventually. But here's the test. Really involves some glute strength to extend that leg. You're in that table, keeping the hips square. I take it past level as high as I can, really using that glute without opening the hip. Probably everybody can do that. Most of you can do a two-legged table this way, opposite arm, opposite knee. Try the two-legged table on one side. That'll tell you if you have that core stability. So you do have to shift a little and get out of position, but you bring up one leg, really lock everything down, push with the top of the planted foot, and then bring up the other arm. If you're not locked down in your core and the rest of your body with this, you'll fall over. It's like trying to carry a waterbed mattress or a regular mattress. One is easier because it's more solid, it's more one piece. So shift yourself over, lift the leg. This is important. This shift is important because you'll require it when you actually do flying crow. And then engage everything and lift one arm. Hard to hold for a long time, but it tells you whether you're actually engaged. Another test for whether you have the flexibility to extend it is to go back to that table, straighten that leg, set it down, and then push back. So it'll kind of look a little bit like you're doing a pigeon pose, but can you get a straight line on the mat from your back foot to your front knee? This is what it's going to look like lifted off the mat. And I don't just do this because that's not how I'll be in the pose. I actually press, lead with the chest, and try to push my extended thigh down toward the mat. That tells me if I've got the psoas muscle flexibility to get that cool line. All that being said, I don't have to do it perfectly to do it. This is still flying crow, even if I have this leg just kind of flopping around. It looks maybe like an injured flying crow, but it's a great way to practice the position, feel the balance point without having the leg out perfect. Eventually the leg will get out perfect. 2 ways to go in. I think the first way is harder because you really have to shift weight onto the planted arm after you've already set your weight even in a regular crow. So here's what I mean. As always, by the way, material on skin gives you the best grip. That's why a lot of times you'll see me in shorts and long sleeves or in a sleeveless with tights. Once you get really good, it shouldn't matter how slippery you are, but if you have any sweat and you're trying to put pressure of your knee on your elbow, there's a chance you're going to slide off. So start off with some material in the way. Here's what I mean. I plug this high. The higher the better for stability. If your crow is down here at the elbows, you're going to have a much harder time being stable when all the weight is on just one arm. So I plug in high as I can. Almost looks like I'm setting up crane. And then from here, I have to shift big time to the left and then push extra with the right to keep this right shoulder from dropping. And then push the leg out. I find this way more difficult than just stepping up to it from like a down dog or a plank. To do that, I really have to crunch. So this does require some core to get this knee as far up the tricep as possible. So here's what I mean. Say I'm in like a down dog or a bear or whatever. I lift this leg, crunch as I shift forward, and really load it where I want it. Then I keep shifting. Notice the back foot drives me. Now I go up on the toe and start making myself light. I point both toes in the same direction and look forward, and I should have a pretty straight line from my head back to that extended leg. So those are the 2 ways you can get in it. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect when you start. The best way to do something is to practice doing it. So the more your exercise can resemble your end goal, your end result, the better. You could go do crunches and lift weights and it would help, but nothing helps like actually doing the yoga. So even as I shift up here, extend the leg, put it in place, high in the armpit. If I put it down here, there's going to be so much wobble. I want it to be closer to my center of gravity, which for this pose is pretty much my chest. If I were standing or in a different position, center of gravity would probably be closer to my hips, but remember, we're upside down. So I can shift into this and get maybe just about to here with this leg not out there perfectly, but I'm still learning the pose. So remember, there's 2 ways in. Go to your regular crow, shift, and press with the arm, with the palm of the side of the leg that you're lifting. I think that one's harder. Shifting in and setting up the exact balance point ahead of time from like a downward facing dog, I think that's a little bit easier. You need enough core just to hold you in place. You don't have to do sit-ups or have abs or anything, but can you, from here, be totally stable? If somebody pushes you around, you literally should fall over as a unit, like your joints don't move because everything is welded in place. That core is important. The psoas muscle is eventually important. This is the last piece. I'm relaxing the front of the hip and using the back of the hip. That's my glute. So as I extend into this pose, what's keeping that leg up, keeping me in a straight line, is this glute and my back just flexing to lift that leg up. And again, I press with the opposite side because all of a sudden the weight has shifted from here. If I don't press, if I shift and don't press, this side's gonna drop. I don't want that. So watch me lift the glute of the extended leg one more time. From down dog, bear, whatever, I lift it, I load it, I lean, I shift to the left and I press right, and then I use the heck out of my glute to put myself in this super cool line. That is Flying Crow. Give it a try. Let me know how it works. Remember, it's not so much how strong you are, but how you use the strength that you have. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the little bell to stay in touch. Namaste.
But the whole point of the machine is to relieve you of that suffering.